need to attach the sleeve to the bodice, and we're looking for this little blue dot here, which is the centre point mark that I did when we transferred the marks from our pattern. So it's a slightly different shade to the blue pattern, so I know it's there. Now what we need to do is we're going to put our hand inside the sleeve, and we're going to match up this edge to this edge. It can poke out a little bit because we've got our seams already inside there, whereas this one we don't want to be too close because otherwise it will fray. So anyway, so we're going to locate that dot there to this edge, and I'm just going to get a pin and pin that in place. Through all those layers like that. And we're going to do the same to the bottom. So the bottom, the seam of the sleeve here needs to line up with the seam of the bottom of the bodice there. So it's a bit difficult for you to see with this material, but I'm going to line those two up like that. And my pins are going to be on the inside of here because we're going to sew looking at the inside. So I'm going to start pinning that in. So then what we need to do is we're going to work our way round this edge and pin that in place. With our pins on the inside. So it's flat, and we're going to go all the way around to where we started our gathering stitch. When we get there we're going to stop. Okay, and that's our gathering stitch there, so we're going to stop there. I'm going to do the same to this side. Pins on the inside. There we go, and actually I'm just going to bring this one up a bit because I don't really want them to be too close to the edge. Okay, like that. So that should be relatively flat. Okay. Now this bit, because we've got all this excess material, so that the person that's wearing the garment can move, we need to now start using the gathering stitches to gather those together. So pull it gently. And we're just interested in this side for the time being. So obviously, because we've pinned it at the top there, we want that to remain in the centre so that it's even. And then once you're happy with those gathers, pin those gathers in place. Like that. Okay? Do the same to this side. And I'm just going to put an extra pin in there as well, I think. Okay, so what we're looking for, the outside should be really flat. Now I can see that that's not flat there, so I've put too much of a pin in there, so I'm going to take that out. This has to be flat all the way around. Maybe there's a bit too much of a gather there as well. But the inside, your sleeve, can be gathered. The outside mustn't be gathered, it must be flat. So now that we've got it roughly in place, you can just start adjusting it just to flatten those out if you need to. Can't get this right. That's better. Okay, so that pin on the outside, let's move that to the inside so we can take it out as we go. Okay, so now we're ready to sew it. So just double check that you're happy with everything. We're going to start to sew from the bottom seam all the way around. So putting that in the machine. Let's take some of the pins out. Well, it should stay in place because we've got that many pins in, it should be alright. Now you can see that we don't need to be too far in on the bottom bit because there's already those the seam allowance is already on the inside there, but we just need to make sure we're quite far away from the edge of this one. And just keep double checking that underneath is nice and flat. Pin. Now obviously when we do this bit, even though I'm taking the pins out, you need to make sure that you just keep sewing the gather. So you can take your pin out but just keep it flat as you sew the top bit. Okay, now the pattern calls for us to do that twice to keep it really secure, but I'm just going to double check that that looks alright, so and that's what I think you should do as well, is just double check that before you sew it again it's how you want it to look. So you turn it inside out and ta-da! It looks like a little sleeve, which is perfect, which is just what we want. And actually when you're doing those gathers you think, why on earth are we putting gathers in it? But then when you look at it afterwards you realise that it makes it look like a sleeve, basically. Most sleeves have got a tiny bit of gathering at the top for movement, so that's what we're aiming for.